Quite right, Your Worship. I stand corrected. But I did say suggesting the presence of persons at all hours.
Mr. Oliver, I will not be trifled with, so please refrain from trying to sneak your dubious points past my rulings.
My apologies. I will now come to the heart of my client's defense.
I'm very pleased to hear it.
The defendant is charged with arson of a house purportedly belonging to the complainant, Mr. Gordon Humphreys. Yet the prosecution has failed to establish the most basic point of proof for this charge. This court has been told the house was the property of Mr. Gordon Humphrey. We have his sworn testimony to this fact. Yet the current title on file is in the name of one Mr. Sidney Humphrey. And while his will is yet to be probated, it bequeathed the property to the defendant.
Mr. Oliver, it's my understanding that the defendant granted a lien on the property. Are you saying that the house belonged to the defendant at the time of the fire?
In effect, Your Worship, although I admit there is some question. But while this court may not be in a position to formally decide the complex question of ownership in this case, it is clear that the onus is on the prosecution to establish irrevocable proof, which they have failed to do.
Do you have any documentation to support your unusual claim?
I have, Your Worship.
Does anyone know what's going on?
Keep working. I don't need an audience. Right, we can sort that lot out for the washer. Bingo.
Is everything all right?
Cash this time, happy pills the next. Everything's just fine.
Good.
Yeah, well, I haven't forgotten I owe you for helping out with this, Doc.
Fine. Just remember, I'm a negotiator, not one of your frontline troops.
I'm not stupid, Doc. Here's your cut.
Thanks.
Now, I don't want any talking about this. Just stash it away somewhere and keep quiet. I reckon Sandy's earned her share of this lot.
And what's going on here?
We were just having a smoke up.
All extra privileges cancelled, remember? Come on, get on with your work. Hand them over.
They're mine.
Arguing with me, Winter?
Of course not, Mrs. Powell.
Thank you. Well, there are more of you in here than are needed for the work. Yes, Peterson, you can go on cleaning duties for the rest of the day. But cleaning duties? All right, I'm going. Thank you, ladies. Work. Your visitor's here. Inspector Grace? Well, who else were you expecting?
Does the prosecution have any additional evidence to enter in the matter of ownership?
Nothing of substance, Your Worship. Although I understand the complainant wishes to contest the will of his father.
Has any action been filed?
Not yet, Your Worship.
But it will be immediately, Your Worship.
Then I suggest you do so. Stop wasting this court's time. Mr. Oliver?
Yes, Your Worship.
This really is a quite extraordinary situation you've placed us in. There's a lot of conflicting evidence about ownership, which should have been cleared up by the prosecution before coming to this court. But the weight is quite clearly in favor of the defendant at the time of the fire. Consequently, I find myself in the situation of being unable to proceed with this case. I therefore have no option But to dismiss the charge, you may go, Mrs. Birdsworth.
What do you mean?
The charge against you has been dismissed.
You mean I got off?
Yes.
You bloody ripper! Ooh.
Quite.
He used to give me roses. I wish he could again. But that was on the outside, and things were different then. On the inside, the sun still shines.